Hi, my name is Beth and I'm the sewing pattern designer and blogger at Sew DIY. In today's video, I'm going to share the 6 tools that you need to start sewing. I know when you start a new hobby, it can be kind of daunting, and especially if you've never ever done it before, you don't really know what you need to get going. So there are lots and lots of sewing tools out there, but there are only 6 that you really need. So I'm really focusing on garment sewists today, and also these are tools, not supplies. The difference being a supply is used up and you have to replenish it. So that would be your fabric, your thread, buttons, zippers, needles. I'm just going to be talking about the tools that you're going to be able to use for years and years to come. So the first one, of course, is a sewing machine. So when you're just starting out, you probably don't want to spend a whole lot of money on a sewing machine because you might not know how much you're going to like sewing. So you can borrow one from a friend, maybe find one in a thrift store, on Craigslist, or Upcycle, some sort of website where people are getting rid of theirs. Or if you can't find one that way, you could also buy a really affordable basic line sewing machine. This machine right here is a Brother CS6000i, and I think it's kind of like the bottom of the line or the entry-level machine. I bought it maybe like 12 years ago, and it runs for I think about $160 on Amazon. So it really varies, but this machine I used for 10 years and it was a total workhorse. It did everything I needed it to do. I made jeans, I made dresses, I made, shirts, t-shirts, sweatshirts, and I even made quilts. So it really did everything that I needed. And it still works. 12 years later, this thing still works. So the difference between kind of a lower, cheaper machine and a more expensive one is that more expensive ones might have some more features that make the stitching quality a little bit better. Just like the look of the stitches and how the fabric is fed through the machine can be a little bit better with a more expensive machine. But unless you're looking super close, you'll never be able to tell the difference between a cheap machine and an expensive machine. I know not everyone would agree with me, but that's my opinion. I used this one for 10 years and I'm a very serious sewist, and it totally worked. So the thing that I really like about this machine is that it came with a walking foot. Prior to this version, I had another Brother machine that my parents bought for me. I think they bought it from Costco. It was while I was in college, and I needed a machine that was going to be really lightweight and portable, which is another great thing about this. So that machine I had for years and it was great, but once I started getting into sewing knit fabric for like a t-shirt or a sweatshirt, I found a lot of challenges because I didn't have a walking foot. And that machine, there was no walking foot available for it. So I went ahead and bought this one, and I could do all that knit sewing and all the quilting that I ever wanted. Another thing that I like about this machine, I've used some others that are kind of basic level, and I found the buttons kind of hard to use, but the buttons are really easy to use here. It's easy to go between the different stitches and change the needle position. So I do really like it. It has 59 stitches. You'll probably never need to use that many stitches, but it has all the ones that you're going to need to use to make really any garment. I'll put a link down in the show notes so that you can go check out this machine if you're looking for just a basic beginner machine that will also last you a long time. The second most important tool is an iron. You likely already have one in your house, but in case you don't, I would definitely not start sewing until I got one. And it's really important that you'll have a variety of temperatures on your iron and the ability to have steam. Using an iron as you sew will ensure that you get everything nice and flat, things are going to fit together better, and you'll just have a more professional, quality looking garment in the end. The third tool that you're going to need is pins. So these little pins are going to hold together your fabric. It'll keep it more stable and make sure that you get all your pieces of fabric lined up the way you want and keep them together as they move through the sewing machine. There are a lot of different kinds of pins that you can get. I really like these long ones with a ball at the end because they're easier to pick up. If I was going to recommend getting just one kind of pin, I would recommend getting silk pins because they should be able to go into any kind of fabric with ease. The fourth thing on the list is scissors. Now you might be thinking, hey, I already have scissors down in my junk drawer in the kitchen, but trust me, you're going to want a special pair of fabric scissors. Most scissors that you have lying around the house are not going to be able to cut through fabric easily or cleanly, but a good pair of fabric scissors will be able to just slice right through it with no problems, and you want to have a nice clean edge when you're cutting your fabric. Also, make sure that you only use your fabric scissors on fabric. Don't let anybody else in your house get hold of them and use them on other materials because it's going to dull the blades. But as long as you use them only for fabric, they should stay really nice and sharp for a very long time. Number 5 on my list is a flexible measuring tape. If you're going to be sewing clothing, it's really important that you get good measurements. So you will use this flexible measuring tape to measure your body and then select your size of whatever pattern you're sewing. Sewing pattern sizes don't line up with ready-to-wear clothing, and even different pattern companies will have different size charts. So it's really important to get to know your sizes, to use your flexible measuring tape often, and refer to the sizing chart. You can also use this flexible measuring tape to measure the actual pattern and get more info about the size and how big it's going to end up. And if you're measuring on a curve, it's really handy because it's bendy. Number 6, which is last but certainly not least, is the seam ripper. This little tool will take your stitches out with relative ease, so in case you make a mistake or change your mind, you can take those stitches out and do it over again. There's no shame in using a seam ripper. I have used this one probably like 3 times today already. So even if you've been sewing for a long time, it's really helpful to have this tool. And if you got a new sewing machine, you might have even gotten a seam ripper inside the tools of your sewing machine, so you don't have to buy another fancy one. I like this one because it's a little bigger and more ergonomic, so it's nicer to use. It's more comfortable in the hand than the tiny ones that come with your sewing machine. So later on in your journey, you can upgrade to something big like this. I hope that you found this video helpful. If you're looking for links to these tools, I will put some links down below to my Amazon affiliate shop. And if you're looking for a sewing pattern, maybe your first garment sewing pattern, I will also put a link to my PDF sewing pattern shop. I have a lot of really easy to sew patterns, including my loop box top and Leela skirt. Those are my favorite beginning patterns. And if you're a little more adventurous, you could even try making this sweatshirt. And if you have a walking foot, it's not even going to be that hard. Let me know in the show notes if you have any questions. And if you haven't subscribed already, I would be so honored if you hit the little bell below to subscribe and stay up to date on all my future videos. Happy sewing!